There's the age-old saying, you can't win your fantasy football championship at the draft, but you can lose it. And drafting these players is how you will lose it in 2024. These are the players I'm avoiding at ADP. First up, Drake London. And again, I'm not saying Drake London, I don't like him as a player. I think he's going to have a pretty good season, especially with Kirk Cousins, who's on my value list and sleeper list. But where he's being drafted right now, in the top of the second, I'm going to have to pass on him. The value at the running back position is just too good, too early to bet on guys who are unsure and who's never done it before. I would much rather have a JT or Kyren Williams over a Drake London in 2024, unless Drake London falls to the third, maybe fourth round. I feel confident in drafting him. But again, at that early second, I just need to see a lot more from him. I'm okay missing on Drake London in 2024. Where you have to draft Drake London, he pretty much has to be your wide receiver one, unless you get a Amon-Ra St. Brown and a Garrett Wilson at the end of round one, which in that case, if he's your wide receiver two, he's a good value. But even still, I'd much rather have the value at running back in that early second round. We haven't seen him become an alpha yet, and there's a very small chance he never does. It might be Kyle Pitts' offense. It might be Bijan Robinson's offense. Kirk Cousins might spread the ball out to guys like Darrell Mooney, Rondale Moore when he comes back from injury. We just don't know. And that's a strong bet to take with Drake London, where you have to draft him at. Being the wide receiver one for Kirk Cousins has its advantages. So again, I do like Drake London, but where he's being drafted at, he's just not a good value. The way I play fantasy football and the way I'm telling you to play, you should draft Kyren Williams, JT, and Derrick Henry over Drake London in them early second rounds. Because you can get talented wide receivers in the third and fourth rounds that can match Drake London's value and potential output, I'm going to have to pass. And he's someone I'm avoiding. Rachaad White is another player that I'm avoiding. And I spoke about the impact that Dave Canales had on quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith, but I don't want to dismiss the benefit that he had on Rachaad White. Rachaad White was top 3 in the NFL in touches last year, and I highly doubt it's going to be the same in 2024. And Rachaad White is the type of player that maximizes value based on touches and volume, not on efficiency. When it comes to efficiency, he was one of the worst in 2023. He averaged less than 4 yards a carry, getting over 200 carries. I'm not sure what kind of NFL team forces the ball to a running back. It can only get you barely 3 yards. And they just kept feeding him. Like, they just didn't care. They said, look, let's just throw these downs away. Just give it to Rachaad White. Let him run into the back of our offensive line. We'll get him the next play. If there's any chance that he loses the type of volume that he was getting last year, top 5 in the NFL, his value is going to plummet. And God forbid he loses volume to another player like Bucky Irvin, who's getting a lot of hype this preseason. He's going to be a disappointment for fantasy football if you draft him in the third round where he's being taken at. I would much rather draft a running back in the first round or second round and go wide receiver in that third round. Guys like Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, Brandon Ayuk. Give me those guys over Rachaad White in round 3. Look at it like this. He had over 270 attempts last year and still couldn't crack 1,000 yards. As much as it pains me to say this because I do love him as a player and what he represents at the tight end position, but next I want to talk about Mark Andrews. He's still in my big 7 as far as the tight end position. There is a tier break after him, but I'm going to have to put him at the bottom of that list. As it stands right now, I'd rather go Kyle Pitts, George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid. I'd rather go all those guys over Mark Andrews right now because the red flags are starting to build up. There were reports that he was in a car crash, and he didn't get hurt from the car crash itself, but after that, he started missing practices with minor injuries. And again, they're minor injuries, so they shouldn't be a big issue, but him having to miss practice time is not something I'm okay with. Combine that with the fact that Isaiah Likely played a pivotal role last year in this offense when Mark Andrews had to miss. So the staff knows that they could trust Isaiah Likely and put him in that Mark Andrews role. So if he has to miss time, they're not really worried. They're not going to rush him back. They want him to be healthy for the playoffs. The point of drafting Mark Andrews at that tight end position where he's having to go in the 4th, 5th round is because you know that he's going to give you the volume. But I'm not so sure in 2024. Now in the 4th round, I want to talk about a few wide receivers that I'm not okay drafting, and I'm definitely going to avoid this upcoming fantasy season, and that's Malik Nabers and Devonta Smith. Now when it comes to Malik Nabers, drafting a rookie wide receiver who's tied to a bad offense with a terrible quarterback is not something I'm okay with. I understand he has all the talent in the world. He has major upside. He's going to be the wide receiver 1 in this offense. He's going to get unlimited value. I understand all of that. but there's just too many red flags with this New York Giants offense that I can't overlook. And when it comes to Devonta Smith, where he's being drafted at in the 4th round, if I wanted to take a wide receiver 2, I would go Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Waddle, or even Stephon Diggs in better offenses. It's quite possible that he's the number 3 option in the offense now, obviously behind A.J. Brown, but with Saquon Barkley in town, all bets are off. Everyone aside from the New York Giants knows that Danny Dimes is not the answer at the quarterback position, but they're going to try and give him one more chance, and they're going to see this season that they can no longer trust him, and they're going to have to draft someone new to build around Malik Nabers. But that doesn't help you out in a redraft setting for Malik Nabers. In Dynasty, yes, he should be a top priority. In redraft, he's a must avoid for me. In the 4th round, the running back value is too good to pass up. Give me guys like Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon over Malik Nabers and Devonta Smith. And last but not least, I want to talk about Zach Moss in the 7th round. Now, this is not a hyperbole, but I've literally heard nothing from training camp coming from Zach Moss. Everything Bengals related from the preseason and training camp has been Chase Brown is the RB1. Chase Brown running with the first team. Chase Brown running with the starters. Chase Brown has upside. Chase Brown has juice. I've heard nothing about Zach Moss. Yes, they signed him to be the starter and they gave him some guaranteed money, but that doesn't really mean anything at this point in the season. And where there's smoke, there's fire. I have zero confidence that Zach Moss is going to be the workhorse in this offense. Best case scenario, it's probably a 60-40 split, and that's not why I would be drafting Zach Moss. The point of drafting Zach Moss, when he signed with the Bengals, you thought you were going to get a workhorse running back who could possibly take the Joe Mixon role, maybe a little bit less, and is going to give you 250 touches. That's something that I no longer see for Zach Moss. At this point, I think it's going to be a 50-50 split. If anything, 60-40 in favor of Chase Brown. He has more upside. He has more explosiveness. They trust Zach Moss in the pass blocking. They trust him as the veteran running back. But that's something that Chase Brown is getting better at and could earn not only the staff's trust, but Joe Burrow's himself. Drafting him in the 7th is just going to be taking up a bench spot who you probably won't play unless it's possibly a bye week. Even when you do play him, you're not really confident about it. I would much rather take the chance on Najee Harris and Zamir White, who could possibly have workhorse roles in offense that are going to lead with rushing, not passing like Cincinnati. Even guys like Javonte Williams around later. I would rather take a chance on Javonte Williams around later, who might be splitting with Jaquil McLaughlin, but at least I know he's going to get the volume and could possibly have a bigger role in that offense. At the very least, we know he's a goal line back. At this point, I don't even know what Zach Moss is in this offense. I know he has a roster spot because of the contract, but as far as playing time, as far as what he brings to the offense, I'm not really sure. Those are some of the players I'm avoiding in 2024. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in and following along with us on this journey to become the #1 fantasy football company in the state of Louisiana.